and then Anne Hathaway falls in love with him, and then they rom-com.
Wow.
Anyway, coming out on June 28th, Netflix. Can't wait to watch it, and I think it's going to be hilarious. If there's one thing that Zac Efron does is a very good rom-com.
Did you say, and then at the end they rom-com?
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
And then they split up because they have a big fight in the middle of the movie, and then there's a montage where they think about it, and then he chases after her, and he stops her on the bridge in the middle of traffic, and then they rom-com.
They rom-com.
They rom-com all night. All right, Lacey, so we've talked about the new Superman, David Cornsweet, saw him in the suit, speculated on that, gave our thoughts on that. What if, because you can't relaunch DC with just Superman, you need Batman. What if the man of the hour, Hollywood's new superstar, Glen Powell, is our next Batman? What would you think about that?
I'd be okay with it, obviously.
Obviously. All right. Well, now that we are standing on the status of predictability, welcome everybody to Nerdy and Nice. This is the 5th episode of the podcast. So however you found us, whether you just found us through searches, welcome. Mondays are for the nerds, as we say around here, but whenever you're listening to this, we thank you. Whether that's Apple, Spotify, another podcast app, or of course on the TRB YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TRB podcasts. We thank you. Or perhaps, Lacey, maybe they found us through the Resistance broadcast, of course, our long-running Star Wars podcast. Either way, we are here, and it's time to nerd out. And the first thing I want to throw at you, Lacey, is, the whole Dune popcorn thing. People thought that looked a little edgy, risque, and then, of course, it had to be one-upped by Ryan Reynolds, who I assume fronted this little project, as we see the reveal of the Deadpool Wolverine popcorn bucket.
Yeah, he mentioned this. Someone asked him this question on the red carpet for his recent movie. I think it was Wish is what it's called, or If. It's the one where, If. And they were asking about the popcorn bucket, and he said, "Oh, we're working on it. Just wait." And if there's one thing that you can count on Ryan Reynolds doing the best possible way is marketing. Ryan Reynolds is a great actor. He's an amazing marketer. In fact, they released this week that he's made about $14 billion in selling off companies and moving stuff around because he's so good at marketing things that he builds them up and then sells them off. So I applaud him. He knows what's in. He knows what people are talking about. You could have a full-on conversation of what happened on the internet, and he probably knows what's going on from his clip that he did recently where he did the disclaimer and then put at the end, "This is cinema." Like, that is such an internet meme joke for people that are online all the time.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure part of it's him. I'm sure there's also some writers that are writing these jokes for him, but I think he's definitely online a lot. And this popcorn bucket is absolutely ridiculous. So as you said, the Dune bucket was the worm from Dune, like, coming out of the bucket. And I'm sure when they thought about it, they were like, "Oh, this is cool. It's the sandworm." But it looked totally inappropriate, and it had these weird kind of like teeth, rubbery things that you stick your hand through that everybody just was like, they had a video that someone like actually showed them getting popcorn out of it, and it was absolutely not usable. This one, on the other hand, is a popcorn bucket of just Wolverine with his mouth wide open. Like, they are not trying to be like, "What if?" They're like, "No, we're saying exactly what we're saying," which is you're sticking your hand or other things right in Wolverine's mouth. And I noticed that the thing that stood out to me, honestly, was not just, it's a big hole, but also they added the little tongue on the inside that looks like it has some texture to it.
Oh, God.
Which made me laugh. The video that they put out where they have him like booping the nose is very Deadpool. They did a good job. They had a guy like with the gloves on. And then of course they do butter dripping down the face.
Right. All to the theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
The Ric Flair entrance music.
Yes. So now that's the second time this has been used in marketing in a year. They used this for Barbie, and then they also used it for this.
Oh, right. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, oh my gosh, it's killing online. People are losing their minds, and good luck finding one of these because 'cause I'm sure they're gonna be sold out everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine is looking like it's set up pretty nicely right now.
Mhm. Ryan
Um,
Reynolds, he's good at marketing. He knows his audience very, very well.
but I know there is other news and things that have been happening to get into. So why don't we find out, Lacey, what's happening?
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
All right, guys, here are the top stories from TV and news and movie news this week. Our first story is probably the thing everybody's talking about, which is Ryan Johnson, a different Ryan, has revealed some of the cast for the new Knives Out movie. I believe is he on contract for 5 of those, or is it
Oh,
3?
I don't is it that many? I didn't know.
Or is it just 3? Maybe he signed on for 3 with Netflix with the possible of more.
Mhm.
But Daniel Craig is returning as Benoit Blanc,
Blanc.
and Blanc. Welcome. For those of you that don't know, Lacey can't read names. So welcome. Carrying this on to the next show from TRB. Anyway, they announced this week, which we all know the Knives Out mystery movies so far have had really crazy casts. And the big kind of event that they've made around these movies so far is who's going to be in it. Because the first ones had like Chris Evans in it, a bunch of different characters. Your buddy from the Met Gala was in the first one. What's his name?
Michael Shannon.
Yeah, he was in the first one.
Right.
Um, the second one had who was in the second one? Kate
Kate
Hudson,
Hudson, Batista,
Batiste. Yeah.
Edward Norton,
Yep.
the girl from Outer Banks.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, a ton of people.
So they've made it an event around these movies now to release the cast list of characters for these whodunits. And this week they announced that Glenn Close, Andrew Scott, Josh O'Connor coming off of Challengers, Kaylee Spaney coming off of Priscilla, Kerry Washington, Jeremy Renner, Mila Kunis all joined the next installment. There's also a loose rumor that Lindsay Lohan and Tom Hardy are also being considered, but those haven't been officially confirmed.
Yeah,
John,
I think.
your thoughts? Do you have any favorites in here? Do you wish someone would show up?
Well, um, so all of these were collectively reported by varying outlets, whether it's Deadline, Variety, the top
Hollywood Reporter.
trades.
Yep.
So it probably sounds like one of those plans where Netflix is like, all right, we're going to give this outlet these two names. We're going to give this outlet these two names so that every outlet with their varying audiences say, hey, look who's in Ryan Johnson's new movie. Smart. Good.
Mhm,
Good.
mhm.
I like the names here. Obviously, you have like a stalwart classic female actor in Glenn Close, which reminds me of the Jamie Lee Curtis casting from the first Knives Out.
Mhm.
Andrew Scott, I thought I know him best from Sherlock.
That's what I know him from.
I think he was such a great villain in that one. So curious what type of guy he's going to play here. Not too familiar with O'Connor and Spaney yet. I did watch like the beginning of Challengers. I got to finish that.
Mhm,
Kerry Washington, very good. Jeremy Renner, he's been good in everything I've seen him in, and he seems to be bouncing back from that near fatal accident he had.
mhm.
Mila Kunis, that's a surprising one off the heels of the letters revealed about her defending convicted rapist Danny Masterson.
That
So
is surprising.
I think a lot of people forgot about that. Like I even forgot about that.
I
So
didn't.
curious how that's going to go. And then the Lohan Hardy ones, those I don't think were reported by major trades yet. So we sort of put that in a bucket of more loosely rumored. Uh,
Mhm.
Lohan, I love a comeback. I don't imagine her being one of the top 3 of the cast. I think she's still working her way back in. So We'll see what type of role there if she gets one.
I have my fingers crossed for her. I really want to see her in this.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And Tom Hardy actually concerns me a little because, and I even saw an interview with, I think it was Shia LaBeouf, and he did a movie with Tom Hardy. I don't know if it was Fury. I forget what movie it was, but he basically said that he's like, Tom Hardy owns a set, and he doesn't do it vocally. He's just like Tom Hardy's one of those actors where people are just magnetized to what he's doing, and he chews up scenery, and he just owns scenes, and that concerns me a little for this. If he's just loosely rumored, but if Tom Hardy's in this movie, wouldn't surprise me because Tom Hardy has worked with Rian Johnson. He actually cameoed in The Last Jedi. It was a deleted scene. But it would concern me a little bit that he would maybe steal scenes when he's not supposed to, and not intentionally because he's one of the best actors around, but just how good he is, and based on what people say about him. But I would love to see him in this type of atmosphere because
it reminds me of when you apply for jobs and you're overqualified, and they're like, "You'd be good at this job, but you're like really overqualified." Like that's Tom Hardy. He keeps applying to these roles, but he's just too good that they're like, "You'll just make everybody look good."
I mean, I would love it, and if all these people end up being in it, I think it's a really good cast, and actually think a better cast than the second movie. I thought the first movie's cast was incredible, and I think this would come at a close second. And depending on how good it is, maybe even better. So I'm excited. I'm a Rian Johnson fan, so we'll see what he comes up with. But you know me, I love a good whodunit, I love a good mystery, and he's a good filmmaker. So we'll see what they can do.
Me too. I am hoping for Lindsay Lohan though. I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Coming up next is something we talked about last week, but we're getting more news as it's trickling out. So they announced this week that they're doing a Beetlejuice cover for Empire Magazine, which is going to give behind the scenes interviews with the cast and crew. And it should be coming out next month. We do have those images. They released an image with it. Here's Michael Keaton with one of those little shrunken head guys. Yeah, he looks good. He looks really good. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say, like, how aesthetically good this movie looks?
I just like the bright colors. Oh my god, I'm so sick of just dull, dreary stuff. And it's funny because this is a movie about people that are dead, but it's like so colorful.
Yeah, Burton loves a color palette. I mean, save maybe the first Batman movie, but this feels like it doesn't feel like it is a disconnected sequel from a visual perspective. This feels like they picked up right where they left off, and Burton remembered exactly how he presented this and shot this and captured it. Michael Keaton looks incredible. They got the shrunken head guy back.
The lighting is everything, honestly. The lighting is just so beautiful.
This movie may cause a revival in blacklight posters. Remember those? Like,
yeah.
It's crazy how he uses fluorescence and all different shades. It just looks like a movie where you're going to want to look around a lot to absorb the scenery. It looks like it's going to be a really rich movie from a visual standpoint, and it seems like they're right in the pocket. Like, sometimes they bring back a character, especially one in makeup, and you can tell that it doesn't look exactly like it did in that first one. He looks incredible. He looks exactly like he did in 1988. And Michael Keaton's always stayed in shape, but the beauty of this is that Beetlejuice always looked like crap. So now it's just, we still have Michael Keaton. He looks relatively the same, just older. And I don't know if they got the same makeup department, but I did see that Neil Scanlon is in charge of all the creatures and stuff. So there's going to be interviews with Neil Scanlon in this Empire magazine, who we know well from his work in Star Wars. One of the good guys in the industry, from everything you hear about him. So it seems like they really went above and beyond to make sure every department had the best people possible. And if possible, they were they were tied to the first movie, they got them back to make sure, because Tim Burton has seen, the new Flash movie, and I think he made comments about how they did Batman, and Michael Keaton did great, but they shot him in daylight, and you can't really shoot that Batman costume in daylight. It looks strange.
Mhm.
He knows, Tim Burton. One thing about Tim Burton is he has his style. He knows how to make his movies. So if anyone else had tried to do this, I think this movie would have tanked completely. But the fact that the right guy came back who made the original with all the same major players, I think we have a hit on our hands here. I think we're going to have a movie that doesn't suffer from long-term sequel failure.
I completely agree. Also paired with this image is the cover reveal
Oh my
for this
God.
magazine. They had a subscriber version, which is more of an artistic cartoon with like kind of a swirly look to it. But this is the cover for everybody else, which is Jenna Ortega, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, and of course, Michael Keaton in his whole getup. I honestly, I like the image better because it's just more colorful. I like the
Yeah.
look of it. This looks clearly photoshopped to me, and it bothers me because it looks so photoshopped. But it's just fun to see all these characters together, especially introducing Jenna Ortega's character because I loved Wednesday on
Mhm.
Netflix. So the moment that they announced she was in this, I was like, that is a perfect casting.
It really is. It's almost like it was just meant to be. And she is a really talented young actor. So
Mhm. So yeah, do you have anything else you want to add about the Beetlejuice stuff or?
no, I want to check it out. And if the trend of popcorn buckets continue, I'd love to see what sandwormy weird things they do with the Beetlejuice popcorn bucket.
Jeez. Yeah, the sandworm is the big kind of s aesthetic thing that they would have come out of the popcorn
Or
bucket.
if they do like the Beetlejuice head, like we used for our thumbnail last week, where the tongue's out and the eyes are, yeah.
Yeah. Well, continuing on the trend so far with this show, I apologize, but I also don't. Once again, we are talking about Glen Powell. This week he spent the week talking to Variety, well, specifically more GQ UK, and then Variety wrote about it. I apologize,
Mhm.
I misspoke. But he was speaking with GQ UK about a bunch of different things, his experiences with Top Gun Maverick, how Tom Cruise almost killed him once, which was an
Yeah.
interesting story. But the big thing that kind of stood out to us as Star Wars fans is that he did talk about how he auditioned for not only Captain America, where he botched the audition, but he said he did a terrible job auditioning for Han Solo for the Star Wars sequel, Solo: Star Wars Story, and he said, quote, "I can joke about it now, but I blew that a final audition." Which I find hilarious. As we know, John and I being diehard Star Wars fans, they auditioned over 3,000 people for the role of Han Solo. So
Mhm.
Glenn Powell was in that mix. He said final audition, so it seems like he was in kind of the final group of people. But what are your thoughts on him possibly being Han Solo?
It's interesting because there's a lot of traits from Hangman in Top Gun Maverick that are very Han Solo. You know, Iceman from the original Top Gun is carved right out of that Han Solo, bravado and machismo, and I'm the best. I'm the, I don't take silver medals type of thing. And then Hangman was sort of like the filler for Iceman, but had his own spin, which I liked. And you could tell just some of the line delivery. You're like, that's a Han Solo from A New Hope line right there. So you could
Mhm.
see they thought like, let's get this guy and
The
try him
bar
out.
scene, especially when he walks into the bar and he's, like,
Oh,
kinda
sure.
talking to everybody. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I think he probably would have done a good job. I love Alden Ehrenreich, and us. We started the whole Make Solo 2 happen thing. We want Alden Ehrenreich to keep playing Han Solo, but if in some different universe Glenn Powell was cast and he played Han Solo, like I'm sure I would have enjoyed it because I think he's a really good actor, and I look forward to seeing what else he's gonna be doing, whether it be Twisters or another Top Gun or maybe Batman. So.
He did bring up Batman. He said, "I was always a Batman guy. I would have loved I would have a wild take on Batman. It would probably be more like it would not be like the Matt Reeves one. It would probably be closer to Michael Keaton." So the big thing that we talked about recently was that he said he didn't wanna do any Marvel movies. He said in this interview he really wasn't interested in superheroes, but he would do Batman, which is also funny because Netflix revealed a fun little video with Glen Powell where he was interviewing people in the street about movies, and he was actually interviewing them about Batman. And he said in that interview, or in that little fun social video, that he's like, oh, I like Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton's my Batman. So this is a man after your own heart, John. You love Michael
I know.
Keaton. You love Michael Keaton Batman.
Love Michael Keaton.
Do you think he could play Batman?
I honestly, we live in this weird world where a lot of these big movies are like striking out at the box office and stuff. And I mean, like Indiana Jones and, you know, DC needs, if they're starting over, they need like some wins to keep that momentum going, to make the next movie and the next movie and properly do a slow build to maybe some sort of Justice League thing done the right way and not the way they did it before, which was we have to do this as fast as possible to catch up to Marvel. Big mistake. We saw how all that happened. Henry Cavill, no more Superman.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, no more Batman. If they cast Glen Powell to play Bruce Wayne / Batman, I think that is, you have to do that if that's on the table. If I'm James Gunn, I am hearing this and seeing if he's serious about it, because you can get away with having some stars in your new universe if you have someone who's a lesser known, like a David Cornsweet being your Superman. So I could totally picture Glen Powell crushing Bruce Wayne. And I like that he said, you know, he's not going to be the emo brooding type. You know, we're not going to do that, because even in this interview, he talks about how after that Batman came out, or after Twilight came out, people are like, oh, we need a mopey, broody Pattinson type. And he's like, it's written right there on the call in the scripts. He's like, it says it. We need those
Every
types.
script. He was saying how like that's how Hollywood works, is they go between these roles where if something's super popular, then every movie has that typecast, which is funny because then he goes into Chris Pratt, which we talked about last time. I was like, wow, they're trying to Chris Pratt him. And here he is talking about Chris Pratt and saying he actually thanks Chris Pratt because he opened the door to the funny, silly leading guy
And
again. Yeah.
who opened that door for Chris Pratt?
I don't know.
James Gunn.
Oh, James Gunn. Sorry, I didn't know if you were going back to Michael Keaton, so I didn't want to
No,
misspeak.
yeah, James Gunn with Guardians, who
Yes.
made people believe that Chris Pratt can be a leading man in a big blockbuster. And now you have James Gunn, the head of DC. He's looking to, if he hasn't yet, looking to cast a Batman. And here's Glen Powell saying, that's the one I would do. To me, this makes a lot of sense. If I found out this happened, I would be very happy.
I mean, he did say, quote, these guys can take a punch and sell a joke. I feel like that's when I started catching friction on the sidewalk. I love that. Which I said Chris Pratt in a joking way last week, that I was like, oh God, they're going to Chris Pratt him and stick him in everything. But it seems like he's happy about it because now it seems like it's his time. He also gave a quote to someone else, a different outlet, saying how his mentor for the longest time has been Denzel Washington. And the big thing that Denzel Washington gave to him as advice was, you know, you're going to go on your own journey, stay in your own lane, focus on your lane, let everybody else do their own thing.
Right.
And that seems like what he's been doing this whole time. We talked about what movies he's picking and choosing. And I mean, there's a good chance he could end up working with James Gunn.
I mean, I think that'd be such a win for him. I think that'd be a win for DC, James Gunn, Batman. I like the idea that he wants to do something that hasn't been done with that character in a while. I'd be very happy to hear this, you know. So maybe he should keep talking about it and pull a Rosario Dawson and, as they say, manifest it.
I was going to say manifest. I know you hate that term right now.
I do now, just because everyone's manifesting everything. I'm manifesting a grilled cheese. Okay, good.
Well, something that is kind of manifesting, which was announced this past week, a different Chris. We always confuse the Chris's as pop culture fans. You have Chris Evans, Chris Pratt, Chris Pine, and Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth is in talks to lead the G.I. Joe Transformer crossover movie for Paramount and Hasbro. So I love Transformers, but I love Shia LaBeouf Transformers, to be honest. I know people hate that one or don't like those ones. I love them. I thought Shia was amazing.
Mhm.
He sold the movie for me. What are your thoughts on Transformers, or the event that's going to be after the recent Transformers Rise of the Beasts? Have you kept up with Transformers? Are you a
Mm-mm.
Transformer fan? What do you think of this casting?
I like Transformers, but I remember being a kid and not being able to transform the toys, and it made me not wanna like Transformers. So, I was like, I would always get, like, halfway done and then be like,
What am I not flipping?
"Ah,
What am I
doesn't look
not
like a truck." I don't know. So, so I remember, like, I had friends who loved the original, animated movie and the cartoon series, and, Peter Cullen with the legendary voice, as Optimus Prime. Like, I love all that stuff. And I did like the 2007 movie, the first one that they brought back. I thought Shia LaBeouf did a great job. Megan Fox, very talented. A lot to like in that
Right.
movie. And but I fell off from there. And but this is
Do you know
interesting
how
because
she got that role, by the way? Do you know how Megan Fox got that role in
no,
Transformers?
no, no.
She told the story that she got this job because she went to Michael Bay's house and he recorded her washing his car.
No
And
way.
that's what she said in an interview, that he recorded her washing his expensive car, and then she got the role.
That's I mean, that's the scene everyone talks about is when she's looking under the hood.
She's leaning over the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, Megan Fox. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna say anything. But I this feels like it could be like the male response to like the Barbie movie. Because
Mm.
this is toys.
I
Now we're
mean,
talking
Hasbro has said that they're moving forward, like, Mattel and Hasbro both have said that, "Yeah,
this
we're
is the
gonna
new
keep going."
war. The
Yep.
war of the toy brand movie franchises. And now
Mhm.
I think this is a really cool idea. Like if you said there's a new Transformers movie coming out, and then you're like, there's a new G.I. Joe movie coming out, I'd be like, I'm probably not gonna go see those. But for some
Mhm.
reason, you wanna have G.I. Joes and Transformers in the same movie, that I'm interested for some reason. I kinda wanna see what that is. So that might get me into a theater. So it feels like it's a cheap cash grab, but it's working because it's piquing my interest a little bit here.
It's the
I don't
meme of the guy behind the tree going like this.
exactly.
That's
Rubbing
what
his hands
Hasbro's
together,
doing. That's
licking
what
his lip.
Hasbro's
Yeah.
doing.
I don't know, like, Peter Cullen's in his 80s, so I don't know if he's still able to do the voice, but, like,
Mm.
I'd be so fired up to see, like, Chris Hemsworth being, like, this G.I. Joe guy, and he's on the ground and pointing this way, and then you have the big giant Optimus Prime, like, "Roll out," and we're like, "Yeah, do it, yeah." I could totally see this, and my son would flip out. He would love this. So I could totally see this being a win. Is it I assume it's gonna be theatrically released. I'm excited to hear more
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They mentioned that Hemsworth is coming off Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which everybody's hating these new Mad Max
Oh,
saga, Star
man.
Wars story, all these things, like, get rid of that.
A Knives
Um
Out mystery.
Yeah, I have to ask you your thoughts because I did notice this in the article that they mentioned that, because it's true that that currently is out and everybody's saying it's a great movie. It did not do well at the box office. I think it
Mm,
made tens of millions of dollars, but it was $180 million budget or something like that. And people are blaming everything under the sun of why a movie's not doing well and not looking at the price tag of tickets. And that some people even showed screenshots of the movie theaters where they're like, one ticket for one adult is $23. How are you gonna bring a family of 4 to the
that's
movies
crazy.
on $100 or $80 for the movies? What are your thoughts on that, and do you think we're gonna see a shift in movie theaters?
Well, I think they're already shifting to these collectible things. So, let's get people in the theater and say, like, when you show up at the theater, you can get the Wolverine popcorn bucket, and that's going to be the collector's item. And
Mhm.
I think that's one way to draw people in. I don't know why Furiosa didn't do well. It had the same budget as Fury Road.
And it was Memorial Day weekend, so a lot of people were like, "Well, maybe it's the holiday," but holidays have over the years done very well over holiday weekend, or
Yeah,
movies have done very well over holiday weekends, whether it's 4th of July, Memorial Day
yeah,
weekend, it's like the kickoff to the summer. Uh,
yeah,
there's a lot of different variables, but I mean, I think people are picking and choosing what movies to see, and there's a
yeah.
big discussion on how quickly they're putting them out on digital after the fact.
That's true too. Yeah, I mean, I'll get to it later, but, like, I just watched, Fall Guy. You know,
I
that
haven't
came
watched
out in
that yet.
theaters, like, 3 weeks ago. So
Right.
it's and it's funny, like, a lot of these movies this could be part of it too. So, I'm 40, I have kids. A lot of these franchises that are coming back around, like Mad Max's '80s stuff. So, like, guys who were little kids or maybe a little older than me, that was their franchise. Maybe they have little kids and they're like, "Oh, I'd love to go see this new Mad Max movie, but I can't." Like, they're targeting our generation, but we're the ones that have the little kids now, and it's harder for us to get to the theaters. That could be a part of it too that we're not talking about. But ultimately, I think it's part of what you're saying. People got used to like, "Oh, okay, I can just watch this in a few weeks at home, won't have to
I'm
pay all
that
the
way.
money." I think
I'm
that's
that way,
certainly
yeah.
a monstrous part of it. But then also, I think there's a part of it because I always hear people say this when I talk about a new movie that either is coming out or came out. People are like, it's always the same phrase. I didn't even know blank was made, or I didn't even know blank was coming out, or that they were making another blank.
Oh, is that out already? Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't, people aren't watching TV as much. I think what we learned from Barbie, what we learned from a negative perspective from Indiana Jones is you can't rely on history and nostalgia. You need to adapt to modern marketing. You need to market on social media. And I am not saying they didn't do that for Furiosa, but I can't remember something that stands out from the marketing of it. And it's not the biggest IP in the world. Like Fury Road caught fire and it was sort of like a lesser extent like Top Gun Maverick type of thing.
It
It's
was a
like
pop culture moment. It was
it's been a
definitely a
long
moment.
time. They
Yeah.
bring this new movie back. All of a sudden, everyone's like, "This movie is killer." Then they try again, and maybe it just didn't work. Maybe it's not as good. The reviews weren't as good. I'm not sure. It's probably a mix of all that stuff. We're
The
still
one
gonna
thing
get
that
big movies. Like Deadpool's gonna make $1 billion.
Oh, yeah, no, it's gonna make so much money. The one thing that stood out to me about the Furiosa marketing was the interview that Chris Hemsworth and Anna Taylor-Joy they were doing, which they were naming their, like, top 4 letterboxed movies, their favorite movies of all time,
Mhm.
and she had said Hook, Almost Famous, Forrest Gump, and I forget the last one that she had said, but they were all kind of like movies that caught me off guard because they were Interview with a Vampire, she said was also her favorite. And she said that, she loves Forrest Gump because she got engaged on the bench that Forrest Gump sits on in the movie in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And then Chris Hemsworth gave his, and his were like Labyrinth, Neverending Story, like very kind of fantastical
Mhm.
children's stories, and you realize like, oh, the casting choices Chris Hemsworth has made over the years has been related to his love for these kind of amazing fantastical adventure tales.
Yeah.
Um, but those are the things that stood out to me. It had nothing to do with the movie. It was just the people in the movie and what they thought about movies. So I think while I recognize that they were sitting together because this movie was out, it had nothing to do with the movie. And I think that we collectively as a society have gotten to a point with social media marketing for these things that every outlet is kind of cannibalizing or working against what the marketing of the movie is, because
Mhm.
all they're working on, these outlets, these journalists, online trades, podcasts, what have you, creators, is they're looking for these little viral moments, these little things that people can share and be like, "Oh, did you see this moment? Did you see what this person did?" Like the puppy interviews with Keanu Reeves and stuff like, "Oh my god, did you see Keanu Reeves?" Which has nothing to do with the movie that he's in, which John Wick would make more sense because he has a dog in that movie, but I digress. The point is that Barbie, everything they did tied back to Barbie to the point that like so smart was Margot Robbie dressing up as a different Barbie at every event she went to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she tied it back to Barbie so that it became an event that people were going, which Barbie is she going to be tonight at the, the premiere for London versus LA versus Korea versus whatever. She went to this round table and she was this Barbie. She went to this dinner and she was this Barbie. And I think that they thought outside the box when it came to normal marketing, and they didn't rely, like you were saying, on, oh, this is Indiana Jones, so you should like it, right?
Right.
The best marketing I saw for that one was when Harrison Ford went on Conan O'Brien's podcast. And again, he wasn't even talking about Indiana Jones. I was just like, oh, that's Harrison Ford.
Right.
I just think that Furiosa has to do a better job. And the best marketing I've seen recently, honestly, was Planet of the Apes, where they had the apes on the horses that were riding around in different locations, kind of that, so to speak, guerrilla marketing, where they had them where they had them in different cities being like, riding on the beaches, and everyone was like, what is going on? Like, that to me looks really creative and fun and interesting, and it gets people talking in a way that they're like, oh yeah, Planet of the Apes. Whereas marketing now has turned into, let me hold this little tiny mic and ask you, like, what does it feel like to kiss your co-star? Like, no one cares. Like, you need to do a better job.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times what these trades are doing is they're using their time when they should be asking about the movie, and they're asking about something completely off topic that was like, being discussed online last week, or a movie that someone was in 5 to 10 years ago. They're not asking about whatever movie they're currently in now.
Oh, so yes, someone. I remember this caused a stir because Simu Liu was like
Jennifer Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, Jennifer Lopez was asked about Ben Affleck and divorce rumors. And it's just
With it was the new movie that just came out on Netflix. It was like Fate or whatever it was, after
Atlas
Fate
or something.
Atlas, sorry. Atlas, yes.
Which apparently it's not good, but
But they were asking about his divorce, and they were like, this has nothing to do with the movie that we're talking about.
Oh yeah, and it's just like rumors about their relationship, and it's just like, come on. Like, you
Literally
got that
read
spot
the
in that
room, bro.
and yeah, like you think you're helping yourself, but ultimately you might not be. But my final on this one, I think this is a smart move for Chris Hemsworth, because Transformers movies, no matter how good or bad, they make a lot of money because the Asian market loves them. It has a big international presence. And then all you need to do, like, the G.I. Joe would just be a bonus. And it'll get people like me in there, because I'm like, what are they going to do with this? I'm very curious to see this on the big screen. I think this is going to be a big movie, regardless of how good it is critically or whatever. I think it's going to make a lot of money, and it'll be good for Chris Hemsworth for, like you're saying, maybe a couple of misfires lately.
Yeah, I think with what we saw last summer with Barbie and Oppenheimer, I think these companies need to make more events around their movies, and they're not doing that. Disney's not doing that, which is interesting to me because it's Disney. They need to focus more on why should people get there, and not rely on, like you said, oh, people are going to go because they like Star Wars, or people are going to go because they like Indiana Jones. No, you need to convince them, just like any other customer with a product. You need to convince them to get into the theater, which leads into our next story, which is Disney's reportedly standing by Iger's word with more Pixar sequels coming. They've said before that they're making more Frozen, they're making more Incredibles, and they think Inside Out 2 is kind of the first step to get them back on course, because they're openly expressing that they've fallen off course, which seemingly, from our own experience with Star Wars, and specifically Solo Star Wars story, seems to be something that Iger is doing a lot, is course correction, or we went about this the wrong way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, John? Do you think they are going to fix things? Do you think we need more sequels? Do you wish they would do new things?
Well, I think during the pandemic, or at least thereafter, was like the first time we really saw Pixar what's the word? Vulnerable?
Yeah,
Like,
misstep,
it
yeah.
seemed like any time a Pixar movie came out, be like, $1 billion, $1 billion, $1 billion, or like adjusted for inflation, like Toy Story would have been $1 billion or whatever. You know, they just make a lot of money. People love them. Like Pixar's was always just like set it and forget it. Like Bob Iger probably didn't even have to like check in with Pixar very often. It's probably like, I got to go back to Lucasfilm now. I got to go over to
They were
Marvel.
makers. Yeah, they were bankable things that like
Constantly.
always just made money. Yeah.
So then they had a couple that didn't do that great, and a lot of them were new original ideas that maybe just didn't capture audiences because it didn't have like a big hook song or like a big voice actor or something. So then Bob Iger's like, he came out in one of those earnings calls recently, and he's like, we're gonna go back to the stuff we know works. And whether that's a uninspiring thing to hear from the head of Disney or not, it's his honesty. And he's like, look, I know people like Incredibles, I know people like Finding Nemo. We're gonna make another Finding Nemo movie, and we're gonna make another Incredibles movie, and I think that's fine. I'd rather that, honestly, than we're doing a live action remake of Moana while we're also putting out Moana 2. It's like, I'd rather tell me the new story. I'll take an Incredibles 2 over a live action remake. But also, I personally think Disney could use a nice classic 2D animated original.
They're never gonna do those again.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks though. That really
Yeah.
does kind of suck.
Mm.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't mind that they're doing that because I do like sequels. Like we were just gushing about Beetlejuice too.
Mhm.
You're not going to stop studios from making sequels. It's not one of those things where it's like, man, if they didn't make Beetlejuice 2, Tim Burton could have made like the next big fish or something. It's like, yeah, maybe he could have, and maybe he will, but they are going to keep making this stuff. You're going to get sequels. They're going to keep taking these shots at things that were either once proven or have been proven recently because of what's going on. We just talked about with the box office. They need hits. So I don't care about, Incredibles 2, this, that. I think it makes sense. People are going to be annoyed about it, but it's going to happen no matter what you think. It doesn't mean they can't also make original stuff. The question is, when are they going to find that person that's going to make the next big, awesome original thing? Because it's been a while since Lion King, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, like those new things that started, launched decades of content for Disney. When's the next Toy Story? When's the next big one that they're like, we're going to build a land in our park for this? From that animated.
Well, seemingly it was Encanto was the most recent kind of one that took over, that was everywhere, that now they're putting into Animal Kingdom. They're getting rid of that dinosaur ride.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So,
but again, that was an original idea. They took a risk and it paid off. So the question is, I mean, I don't have a lot of thoughts because I'm the person that's going to watch all these sequels.
I'll watch them too. My kids will watch them. No doubt about
I have
it.
no problem with the sequels. I actually, I'll admit, my daughter was really into Frozen a year ago, like really into it. Every day was Frozen. And then she figured out there was a Frozen 2, and then it was Frozen 2 nonstop. And at first I didn't like Frozen 2. I was like, ugh, this makes no sense. But then I realized, like, oh, the music in Frozen 2 is much better than Frozen 1.
Ooh,
so
is that
I
a hot
will.
take?
That might be a hot take. I think Into the Unknown is much better than Let It Go. 100%.
Okay.
That's my Alone in the Car singing song, Into the Unknown.
That's fair. There's also a song on they did one of the side short Frozen things on Disney Plus.
Is it the one where she has a cold?
It's the one where they're hosting this big holiday party and they're trying to get ready for it.
Yeah.
And there's this song on that. They're just so good. I'm like, holy cow.
Well, it's because it's the same. It's the Kristen Lopez or
okay.
The husband wife duo. They did Agatha All Along too. They wrote that song. They wrote Let It Go.
Yeah.
They wrote, I believe, the songs for Coco. They do everything. They're crazy.
Oh, very good.
But yeah, so I have no thoughts on this. I think it's smart. I think that I haven't watched this stuff like Soul or Turning Red, which came out during the pandemic, and I've heard that they're very good. I just haven't had the time to watch them. But again, the marketing, going back to our previous conversation, failed those. and I think that then deterred audiences from watching them. But anyway, we got a couple more stories to run through really quick. This one was actually a real nice joy to read, so to speak, but
Mhm.
also kind of heartbreaking a little bit, which
Yeah.
was that the Mrs. Doubtfire teen actress, Lisa, is it Jacob?
Yeah, Jacob, I think.
Yeah, who played Lydia in Mrs. Doubtfire, which, by the way, Mrs. Doubtfire is one of my favorite movies of all time, says Robin Williams was, quote, one of the first people who ever really spoke to me honestly about mental health. Quote, he would talk to me about his struggles and the things that he went through. And it was the first time I felt like, oh, I'm not a freak. I don't have to hide this about myself. This is just something that some of us have to deal with. Robin was everything you would hope Robin would be. And it's so wonderful to think back on him now. I am grateful that I got to be in his presence and that I got to be working with him, that he was so kind to me. It's just such a wonderful quote.
Wow.
Robin Williams is there are two people that I cried, like celebrity-wise, when they passed away, and it was him and Carrie Fisher are the two people that like my day was my week, month, year was ruined. And he
Yeah.
is someone that when Robin Williams passed away, I know all my friends and family called me and were like, "Are you okay?" Because I was just
Yeah.
he's my number one. Anytime someone asked me like, "Who would you go to dinner with? Who would you want to meet? Who would
That's
you want to
true, you
talk
said that,
to?"
yeah.
Always Robin Williams. He like defined my childhood between this and Aladdin and Jumanji, and oh my god, he's the best. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a feel-good story, especially we constantly keep hearing all these horror stories about what young women are put through in Hollywood.
And
Um,
children actors, yeah.
yeah, and she was, I think, 13 or 14 when filming this. That's gotta be a intimidating thing, and, she's not sure of who she is, and the fact that, this legend, he was already a legend at this time,
Mhm.
took the time to talk to her on an adult level about real serious things and like respected her understanding of it is like an incredible thing to see. And you hear these stories and it's like Robin Williams is going to live forever because these stories there's probably hundreds of these stories because he worked
Mhm.
on with kids on Hook. I'm sure he uplifted and helped all these, young kids, whether they went on to become accountants or they continued acting. It's just a wonderful story. And I agree, Robin Williams is one of the tops for me. So anytime you hear a story about someone who had passed and it's not oh, I can't believe in 1973 this person said this and now we hate them. It's like, no, every time you hear a Robin Williams story, usually it's, wow, he was probably one of the greatest people on earth. So very cool.
Yeah. And it's hard to top that with any other story. So we're going to head into our next part, which is trailer time.
Oh god, I love that movie.
Okay, trailers this week. We got The Bear Season 3, Wolves, which is an upcoming movie starring Brad Pitt and George Clooney, little Ocean's 11 reunion. Moana 2, animated sequel coming in November, and A Family Affair, a rom-com hitting Netflix later this month, June 28th. Lacey, do you want to pick one to start that you saw, enjoyed? Which is your favorite out of these four? And lay it on me.
I'll say the one that excited me and the one that I surprisingly have problems with. so
Ooh.
So, first, the one that I'm most excited for is A Family Affair. Of course, the rom-com with Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman and Joey King. I think it's gonna be hilarious. It's from the producers of Anyone But You with Anne Hathaway that just came out and killed it, which I appreciate this. Anne Hathaway did that movie. And it's a story of an older woman that syncs up with, like, a teen heartthrob band member, and it killed it on Amazon Prime. It's a rom-com,
Oh,
and, it did so well that the company went to her and was like, "Please, will you do another one?" And she was like, "Nope, that's it.
really?
Just one." Yeah, Anne
Wait,
Hathaway,
what's that called?
Anyone But You.
Then what's the one with freaking Glen Powell and the talented Sydney Sweeney?
Oh, this is Anyone I'm mixing them up. Oh my god, I'm mixing them up.
No,
Anyone
but
But You is with Glen Powell.
okay, because it's
I'm
similar.
mixing it up.
Is it? It's got to be like a similar title or whatever.
It's gotta be. What's the Anne Hathaway one? I'm blanking right now. The
The Idea
Idea
of
of
You?
You. Oh
Oh my
my
god. Who's
god.
naming these movies?
Oh my god. So, I apologize. Anyone but you with the producers of that with Sydney Sweeney and Glen Powell, still hilarious. But the reason I drew a comparison to this film is because Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman fall in love and have an affair. It's Joey King is Zac Efron's assistant. He's kind of like this pompous, like self-centered heartthrob actor, and then Nicole Kidman is the mom. So that's why I drew comparison to the Anne Hathaway movie because it's basically the same thing. This girl wants to go to a
Oh.
concert with a heartthrob boy band member, and then Anne Hathaway falls in love with him, and then they rom-com.
Wow.
Anyway, coming out on June 28th, Netflix. Can't wait to watch it, and I think it's gonna be hilarious. If there's one thing that Zac Efron does is a very good rom-com.
Did you say and then at the end they rom-com?
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
And then they split up because they have a big fight in the middle of the movie, and then there's a montage where they think about it, and then he chases after her and he stops her on the bridge in the middle of traffic, and then they rom-com.
They
They
rom-com.
rom-com all night. All night long. So all right, so you like a family affair. What's your problem child?
This, like, pains me to say, Moana 2.
Oh, I did not expect. All right, what do you got?
I love Moana. I love the songs of Moana. I love the people that are in Moana. This movie was originally a series, that now it's a movie, and yes, the original actors are of both Moana and Maui are back. However, the music is not being done by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So it just doesn't have the same vibe as the first one, and to me, it seems like a money grab. And it's very confusing to me how they're doing this Moana 2 with the original actress, but then the live action is a completely new girl.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
with you.
woman. I should say woman because this girl is not a girl. She's a woman.
Yeah. I agree with you on the
And the
element
trailer
of
told me nothing, by the way. Nothing. It tells you nothing. It's like, "Oh, hey, look, her parents are older and maybe she has a kid because they have a young son, boy with them, so maybe Moana has a child at this
yeah,
point."
it's definitely. I mean, they
It's weird.
call it a teaser trailer, so I think it's just to like sort of whet the appetite a bit. But I'm with you on the fact, like I was saying before, like you got like don't do the live action remake of a movie that you're still continuing the franchise of on the animated medium. It's very strange.
So weird. So weird.
And I like this teaser. The only thing that I agree with you about the music too. The only thing that is holding out hope for me is that you got to assume that the new composer is going to pull a lot of the classics from the original, so you're still going to get that in the movie, threaded
Mhm.
in with maybe a
Mhm.
new theme and one new dance, like singing number from The Rock, of course, and that sort of thing. I'm still going to see it because I like Moana.
I'll see it too, but
Yeah, but we'll see. But my problem child is actually a family affair. I
Oh!
I know this is gonna be a hot take. First off, Nicole Kidman doesn't look like herself in this movie for some reason, and I'm not gonna expand upon that. But it just feels weird to me because you got Zac Efron, and he's still coming off the juice from Iron Claw, so he's still got the jaw, and he's still all jacked up.
Well, he
He's
got
like,
into a did you hear he got reconstructive surgery though. Did you hear
okay,
about that?
I
He fell in his kitchen and, like, smacked his face into his countertop and broke his whole face.
I know, but that
So
was
he
like 10.
actually doesn't look like himself anymore. It's like a Mark Hamill
But
situation.
hold on, that was like 10 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was a long time ago.
Hold on. When
There
did Zac
you
Efron fall? I thought it was during COVID.
Can I tell you the truth about Zac Efron? I figured it all out.
2013.
11 years ago. Look at movies he's done since 2013. He still looked like Zac Efron. This is the biggest cover-up excuse because the dude took steroids for Iron Claw and it gave him that steroid jaw face. That's all that happened. He took so much steroids for Iron Claw. He got the steroid gut. He got that jaw that you see people on steroid, like the pro wrestlers from the 80s, why they look different.
You know, it was a weird excuse. He says it sucks. I almost died, but we're good.
So I'm just saying, like, take a moment. 2013 has his accident, has to have surgery to get fixed. Look at Neighbors, Neighbors 2, other movies that came out after 2013. He still looks the same as he did before. He just looks
It's
maybe
only
a little...
in 2022 he started saying he looks different.
And that was after he filmed Iron Claw. This is what I'm saying. He took so many steroids for that movie to get big that it changed his jaw structure. That happens with steroids. Why is no one else seeing this or pointing it out? It's so freaking obvious. And now he's not doing them anymore, and he's starting to look a little bit more normal again.
Less square, I would say.
But he still has a little bit of the roidiness happening in this movie. So you're gonna see him all muscly and stuff all over, like Nicole Kidman, who's like 65. It's just, it just feels this is what's gonna happen in this movie too. He's gonna end up falling in love with the daughter. It's gonna be like The Graduate, and then at the end of the movie, he's gonna wind up with the daughter, and the mom's gonna be like, "I'm happy I was able to, teach you about life." And
I don't think so. I think the movie is that the focus is on the mom, just like the Anne Hathaway one. I think that's the movie.
I think this movie's gonna be bad, and I think it's
this movie, and I know not anyone but you. The idea of you with Anne Hathaway was a fanfic that they made into a movie. I don't know if that's the case with this one as well. I don't know who the writer is of this. However, there has to be some type of demographic and or study that these, especially Netflix, is looking at saying, hey, this is the demographic that's watching these things. This is what's popular. This is what's not.
I mean, do you think women over 45 would have interest in watching a movie about a woman over 45 having a sexual affair with Zac Efron? Probably.
I mean, I'm not there, but I would.
That's what I'm saying. So they know that people are going to watch this. I would say young women who like rom-coms, like you, will watch it. I like rom-coms. I will watch it too.
Can we watch it together? You want to do a watch along?
We can do a watch along. We'll do a watch along for a family affair. I just hope it's not that bad that it turns into a roast fest. It's, to me, I'm feeling like this is going to be a stinker. But
what's going to happen is, ready? I'm calling it right now to everybody that's listening. I'm going to end up hating this movie and John's going to love it.
That'd be interesting.
I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to be like, oh, that was actually really great. And I'm going to go in and be like, I thought it was going to be good.
I'm hit or miss. Like a lot of people didn't like 17 again. Zac Efron.
I loved 17 again.
Zac Efron, older woman, even though it's him playing
with Leslie Mann.
I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Matthew Perry, rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
For me, on this list, I am intrigued by wolves. I'm not even the biggest Ocean's 11 fan. I actually think that movie's overrated. That's a hot take.
Are you kidding? This movie is Ocean's 11 and Mr. and Mrs. Smith had a baby.
But you know what this reminded me of? Because it's called Wolves, not Wolves. So it's like two individual wolves. So I get what they're trying to do. But the whole premise is they're cleanup guys. They're like clean up messes. When someone dies, they clean up the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And this was either inspired by or it's tied to Pulp Fiction. Because Harvey Keitel, the wolf, who they hire to clean up the car and get rid of the blood and the body and stuff, they call him the wolf, and he shows up and he fixes their problems and he leaves. So this is either inspired by that or it's a take on that, but I think it's going to be pretty good. It seems like a classic old Hollywood sort of action suspense, but with like humor type of movie. It feels like very Rat Pack.
Well, they have the Frank Sinatra in the trailer that they always use in these type of things.
George Clooney's all about that throwback classic guy, Frank Sinatra style type of thing, and that's exactly what this is. And I think it'll be good. So I'm down to check this out. I don't know about theaters. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the Bear, I think until the Bear.
Wait, hold on.
I'm
Wolves
on that.
was written and directed by John Watts, so that's interesting because John Watts is the one that's doing Skeleton Crew.
Yeah. Yep.
And he did Spider-Man. So.
And Wolves is coming out
September, and then Skeleton Crew could potentially be coming out November, December. It could be the fall of John Watts. Not like literally fall, but I'm saying like the season fall of John Watts.
Okay. I was like, oh, geez.
Right. No, like the season.
And then Watts. Bear season 3. Until the Bear's bad, I'm gonna assume the Bear is gonna be good. So June 27th, the Bear.
I've never watched the Bear.
3.
Have you?
Yes, you would need to really muscle through a few episodes because the beginning of that series is anxiety peaking.
That's why I haven't gotten into it. Also, I used to work in restaurants, and I find that whole environment stressful.
All right. Well, that is it for trailer time. So, Lacey, what you watching?
We can never leave the house, and would just probably sit around all weekend and watch TV.
Go on.
I'm gonna be honest. It was a crazy week, guys. I'm doing stuff in my house. My kitchen does not exist currently. I have no kitchen, and I have no bathroom downstairs because I'm putting in a new tile floor, etc. So I didn't really watch much. So all I've been watching is bits and pieces of the Jenny Nicholson Star Wars YouTube video because it's 4 hours long and I can only watch so much. Yeah. Which, by the way, she's blown up so much that she got an interview in Rolling Stone, and I think I'm on the last hour. I'm at 3 hours.
Wow.
And I've been watching Gabby's Dollhouse and stuff with my daughter, like Jake the Pirate on Disney Plus.
Jake the Pirate?
But I look forward to this weekend watching The Idea of You with Anne Hathaway because it's been on my watch list, as well as Fall Guy. Those are my 2 movies that I really want to watch this weekend.
Fall Guy, you'll probably like. I liked Fall Guy. I bet Matt would even like Fall Guy. I bet Matt would like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you said he likes action movies with.
Oh, and I want to see Hitman too with Glen Powell.
When does that come out? Is that out?
Is that out? It's on Netflix. It's one of those things again, this is what we were talking about, guys. You never know when stuff comes out because it's this came out on Netflix.
I watched Fall Guy. I liked Fall Guy. I'm a big Emily Blunt fan, and I like Ryan Gosling a lot too. And it was a good recipe. The chemistry was great.
I think it's out.
Hitman's out?
It's out June 7th.
Oh, okay. So right around the corner.
I'll watch it, yeah.
Yeah, this Friday.
And it has Adria Arjona from Andor.
Arjona.
Yeah. Sorry.
There was a building at UConn called Arjona. That's why I know that. But also, no, you got to get the silent J.
Silent J.
Yeah. What was I saying now? There's predictability with Fall Guy, but it's a good movie. I recommend it highly. I had a lot of fun with it.
Good marketing.
Gosling's still riding this wave of just nailing these parts and picking the right movies. And it's fun to see when someone's on one and they're knocking Jim Carrey in 1994, The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber in the same year. You're on a different level.
Didn't he do Liar Liar then too?
97. Yeah. You're Thanos with all of the stones at that point. You're just Mwah. And I feel like Gosling and now Glen Powell are those guys right now. So it's fun. It's fun to see because they seem like good dudes, and I'm entertained by their flicks. So
Imagine
Fall
if they
Guy.
did a show. Imagine if they did a movie where they played brothers.
That could happen.
I'd love
that'd be box office. I mean, a lot of ladies in those theaters, that's for sure.
Several times for me.
Yeah. And then Acolyte tomorrow. We are watching the Acolyte because we love Star Wars, and we are hosting a brand new live show right here on the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/@TRB podcasts, or the Resistance Broadcast podcast feed, of course. Acco Night, the Acolyte after show. So we are doing our Star Wars show throughout the run of the Acolyte. So about 7 weeks or so on Wednesday nights. at 8:30 East live, and then of course Thursday morning on the Resistance Broadcast podcast feed. So we're excited for the Acolyte, of course, right?
100%. Can't wait. We've been building up for a couple months now for the Acolyte. We've been excited since we saw footage back at Celebration in London last year. Like we said on TRB, we did have some people represent us at the premiere last week because we both couldn't go, personal stuff. But we look forward to enjoying this show with everybody else. You know, there's nothing better than everybody watching it at the same time and then reacting online.
Very cool.
Luckily, they're releasing the episodes at 9 p.m. on Tuesday nights, which is nice for us. We're not watching it at 3 a.m. on the East Coast.
For sure.
So I look forward to seeing new Star Wars stories.
Yeah, exactly. We're pumped about it, and we look forward to talking about all of that on the Resistance broadcast Wednesday night. So join us 8:30 East right here. Even if you're like, I kind of like Star Wars, check out the Acolyte and then come hang out with us because we're doing giveaways. It's gonna be a really good time. All right, that takes us to the end of this show. So like we've been saying throughout this episode, make sure you're following us, Nerdy and Nice Pod on social media, and of course subscribe. Look up Nerdy and Nice on your favorite podcast app, and if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do that as well. Spread the word. You know, hopefully you're enjoying this podcast. If you know people, we know you do. You're a nerd. You like movies, you like TV, you like all this geeky stuff that we talk about. Tell your coworkers. Be like, you got to check out Nerdy and Nice. John and Lacey, killing it. Mondays are for the nerds. Where's my t-shirt? It's coming, hopefully. But tell your you're wrapping up college. Tell your classmates you're starting a summer job. You're a lifeguard. Tell people, put them in your earbuds as you're saving lives in the lake. Whatever. Tell people about Nerdy and Nice and the Resistance broadcast, and let's keep growing this fun thing we got going. A special shout out to our Patreon movie star generals and silver screen spice runners. Carmelo, John Risi, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny, Mike Ramori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Jolton Jedi DiMaggio, and Colin Cormier, and the Silver Screen Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and the Fort Worthian, and all of our supporters on Patreon. If you're digging Nerdy and Nice and you want to support our Patreon, head to patreon.com/TRB podcast. We are putting up exclusive mini episodes of Nerdy and Nice right there on the channel. We talked about Stranger Things recently and whether or not Eddie Munson's coming back. Go check it out. It helps us grow. It allows this show to exist, right? Lacey, Nerdy and Nice would not exist if we weren't able to get the support we are. And the hopes are we're growing this show, Resistance Broadcast, and keep this thing going because it's the dream of ours to do this full time so that we can do more of all this stuff for you, for us, for nerds. Lacey, where can people find you?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran. Also on the at Nerdy and Nice Pod channels, talking about stuff with John. Make sure to follow us there. Let us know how we're doing. Leave reviews. Please post your reviews so other people can find us. We really appreciate it. Just to keep the party going. And yeah, you can find me talking about the Acolyte this coming week, which is super exciting. I think John and I will do some type of reaction after the first few episodes. We haven't really discussed that, but it's probably going to happen.
Probably. Yeah. Odds are good. And for me, Johnny Hoey on X for the most part, and my nostalgic movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. Check that out. And that's it. So we will see Star Wars fans Wednesday night for the Acolyte after show, talking Star Wars. And for everyone else, we'll be back next Monday with another episode right here on Nerdy and Nice. So until next time, we'll see you around, kids.